Rob J gave me an incredibly generous 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon and brings you today's video. Toby Beastie Befriender versus Braids, Yusri and Angus Mackenzie. A turn 2 Smothering Tithe that. So yeah, definitely try this one. As ever with Ancient Tomb, it does mean that we're taking a decent chunk of life to it early on, but for the sake of getting ahead on mana, I'm hoping that we won't be hurt too much by it. So in order to get down the Smothering Tithe on turn 2, we'll need to get the Mind Stone off the Ancient Tomb, drew into the Eternal Wanderer, which we should also be able to get into play quickly, although there was a 2/1 creature, the Cult Conscript, coming into play for the black player. Farseek from the Bant player. The Izzet player holding up mana, so may well be able to counter the Smothering Tithe, unfortunately. And the 2/1 decides to hold back, so we'll test the Izzet player for some interaction. He was holding up priority just now, but this is the plan, so we'll force him to answer it. And yeah, looks like he's got something for it. That is a Jwari Disruption, so might take him off a land there, but we'll assume not, seeing as how he has decided to cast it here. Still on for a turn 4 commander and a turn 5 Eternal Wanderer at least, so we can start flickering the commander and making a bunch of 4/4s. The 4/4 token from this is not legendary. Bloom Tender from Angus Mackenzie, followed by another Dork in the Birds of Paradise, going down to 3 cards in hand. Yusri into play after that, and we see another 3 mana commander. That's 2 in a row. Just noticed all the commanders are 3 mana here actually, so we'll see if we can make it 4 in a row, because we are most likely going after Toby. The Cult Conscript is sacrificed to the Braids. We don't have a creature to sack, and none of the other players do either, so Braids goes up to 9 cards in hand, and we each lose some life. Yeah, we draw into Emeria the Sky Ruin. Are we eager to get down a tap land here? Not confident that we'll even be going for the Eternal Wanderer. If it's only eating damage from this flyer, then we can kind of counteract that. Yeah, I'll take another hit from Ancient Tomb just for the sake of getting the tap land down. Play our commander like that. I've never seen the token from this before, so that's what it looks like for anyone else who hasn't seen it. And after which we see a Windborn Muse into the Angus Mackenzie. So definitely starting to set up Pillow Fort type shenanigans over here. Never crystal clear what they're trying to do in an Angus Mackenzie deck. There are various means of building it. Strionic Resonator, ready to copy the Yusri, assuming that it swings in here. And 5 cards in hand. See if he just happens to win 5 flips in a row. Strionic Resonator copies the trigger. I think it swung in to the right. So they're at 38 life. They just took a shock and then went down to 26, so they lost 5 in a row there, as opposed to winning 5 in a row. And discards to hand size an island and a Spell Swindle. Definitely ending with a full grip though. Braids throws down a Nightmare Shepherd, able to make copies of creatures. Has discarded at some point as well, must have been to hand size also, Village Rites and the Plague Crafter. And could have attacked us with his Braids, because we would only have been able to block with the commander, but decided to hold back. And didn't sacrifice anything either. Just another Plains for us. We're a ways away from getting the Emeria off, and we won't be able to reanimate the Smothering Tithe in any way in this deck, I don't think. I think instead of the commander, now that flyers are coming down, we're just going to go for an Offspring Warren War Leader. Could go for it now in order to get the buffs, but I think I'd just rather get the tokens anyway. So yeah, this is whenever you attack, not whenever the War Leader attacks, so we will go for it now. And with Offspring from Bloomburrow, we get a 1/1 token copy of it. Awesome. I haven't had as much chance to play with Bloomburrow as I would have liked, so it's good to still be able to play some of these cards here. Swing in, we get 2 triggers. We'll go for a rabbit on both of them, just simply for having some sack fodder and blocking fodder. And both of these will have to enter attacking our opponent as well, because we can't swing in the 1/1s anywhere else. Of course, had to go in with our commander here, because this can't attack or block alone. Might be that we're doing something as simple as just dropping an Elesh Norn and dealing a whole bunch of damage next turn. I don't trust that the Izzet player can't interfere with us though. Sithis Harvest's Hand says that there is definitely an Enchantress Pillow Fort theme going on then. And a Mirror Maid. Could make himself a flyer, because this is an enchantment creature. And that's exactly what he does, making a 4/4 flyer. Throws out Sol Ring as well. still have fast mana in the format, even if the rules committee hates fast mana. So with the Nightmare Shepherd, it says you may exile it, and if you do, so I suppose it depends on the turn order and whose turn it is, more importantly, as to who will get to exile and get the copy of it. I don't think both players will. Anyway, an Estrid's Invocation is a very good one and being kept in cards by the Sithis. Alright, decided to bring it down as a copy of nothing, which is weird. Could have just made another Nightmare Shepherd. Anyway, the 2-3 swings at us. The Izzet player now throwing out a Tribute Mage, which makes the Wrath from the Eternal Wanderer better. The only problem is that our opponents are going to get copies of things with Nightmare Shepherd, which could make it more difficult, but I think we might be at a position where it's good to get this down, and if it gets taken out with a flyer in combat, then so be it. Croc's Thumb is a scary one as well. Doesn't seem as though the blue player is holding up any counter magic though. He didn't even want to see what he was going to draw into there before going for the tribute. Yeah, did tutor up the Croc's Thumb, so we're assuming that he's going for winning 5 flips here. He can't copy his commander's trigger with the Strionic Resonator. Oh, he just flipped 5 tails in a row and drew 5 cards. Hang on. So what's the... For each flip you win, draw a card. Did he really just win 5 flips in a row? He lost 5 flips in a row and then won 5 flips in a row on this turn. I think he's going to get to cast his hand for free here, if I'm understanding this correctly. So, there's a free Sol Ring. Let's see how lopsided this game becomes when we've still got Sol Ring in the format. A free Wizard class as well. No max hand size for our opponent, so he could just stop right here, although I'm sure he won't. Then that was a sorcery, gain control of a creature until the end of the turn, it gains haste, blah blah blah, so just taking the Bloom Tender, tapping down some mana for it, and levelling up the Wizard class in order to draw 2 cards, and he can still cast those cards from hand as well for free. Ivory Tower to gain himself some life, because he's going to lose a lot of life if he keeps getting shocked. And Opt is scry 1 and draw, so maybe, depending on what else our opponent does, we're just going to have to work out if we can Elesh Norn him out of the game next turn. Planar Chaos. At the beginning of your upkeep, flip a coin. If you lose, then sacrifice it. Whenever a player casts a spell, that player flips a coin. If they lose, counter the spell. So there's every chance that we don't get to slam down Elesh Norn next turn, although we can get buffs from this at least. Chancing Counter. When you win a coin flip, put a luck counter on this. At the beginning of your upkeep, if it has 10 or more counters on it, you win the game. Haven't played against a coin flip deck in quite a while, and there have been some new printings for it recently. Well, going straight through with 7 cards in hand to the upkeep of the mono black player, so hopefully we'll be able to get through not only the Planar Chaos, but any kind of Force of Wills or anything like that I'm sure our opponent has. So see if a Sifter of Skulls manages to land. Nope, it gets countered. Feels bad. Hopefully we will have better luck than the Braids player. A Vamp Tutor after that as well, not holding on to it. Yeah, he could have held on to that, it is an instant, and it might be that by the time he casts it, the Planar Chaos isn't in play anymore. And then the Sol Ring being tapped in response for a Strionic Resonator. Okay, so trying to... I mean, yeah, the black player's kind of taking a hit for us here, but it's self-imposed. Dodges the first copy of the Planar Chaos, and the second one as well, so does manage to get his Vampiric Tutor through. Now unfortunately, even if we lose out on the Elesh Norn, swinging in with this and getting... we get 2 buffs on everything, wouldn't we? So I think we're just 1 shy, if I'm calculating it correctly. Yeah, I think we've got 18 on our opponent, and he would block with this, of course, so... Oh no, I forgot about the Braids. Yeah, of course, he gets knocked down to 15 with Braids for not sacrificing, so yeah, even without Elesh Norn, we should be able to get through here. Need to get rid of the coin flip player as soon as we can, because it's becoming a big issue, and he'll only get further away from us with the Ivory Tower. Alright, well, an Inspiring Leader means that our creature tokens get +2/+2, so yeah, don't think we need to do anything other than try and just swing through for the victory, or at least knock the Izzet player out, not necessarily a victory, but yeah, let's go through to attacks. So we can go for, yeah, the tokens fly over, so we don't necessarily have to swing through with everything. And plus this guy can swing in over here to finish him off as well, so let's just take the tokens down the middle. I'm not going to trust this player to knock him out because some players make really goofy decisions and leave players in play longer than they should. So with 2 triggers on the stack, it's +1/+1 and +1/+1. Or is putting a token into play just as good? Oh, I can't be bothered working it out now. We'll just do +1/+1 twice. Yeah, Warren leader's turning out to be pretty good. Yeah, we've got 15 exactly on our opponent here. So down he goes to 0 exactly. And now, do we want the Elesh Norn? Doesn't do anything to the black player. Or we could go for the Eternal Wanderer, but it makes us lose out on our board as well, doesn't it? So let's just try the Elesh Norn here. Potentially makes things more difficult for the Bant deck. So wiping a load of stuff out. Alright, a Propaganda. Don't think this flickered. Yeah, you can exile it and return it under its owner's control. 2/2 flyer swings in at us, not really all that bothered about that. But it is going to be, wow, 4 mana per creature. So we can get rid of the Wingborn Muse, that would help us out. Go for the throw onto Elesh Norn, that didn't last long. I'm assuming that he wants to get down a small creature, or maybe a series of small creatures, and he won't be able to with Elesh Norn in play. Yep, there's Viscera Seer. Wouldn't be able to hold on to his sack outlet. And Braids triggering at the end step again, see if he decides to sacrifice anything. Hasn't got too much use out of Braids so far. Okay, does decide to sack the Viscera Seer. So, yeah, we'll get rid of a rabbit token. It's going to be too difficult to go wide on the Bant player anyway. He's kind of switched on the Bant player's deck again, getting rid of Elesh Norn. And does get a token copy of Viscera Seer. Okay, a Shadow Spear will gain us a nice chunk of life. Throw down a Plains. We still need, I think it's 7 into the Emeria the Sky Ruin, so we still need 3 Plains. We can swing a couple of creatures in over here, but we'll have to totally tap out into that. Probably just worth getting down the Inspiring Leader instead. So creature tokens, +2/+2. And we'll go through to combat. We can get down Shadow Spear as well at least. Mackenzie deciding to hold up priority before combat, but then allowing the attacks to be declared. So 6/6 to the left will cost us 4 mana. And then I'll throw in the Warren War Leader token, because we can get +2/+2 on everything. Or I could just make it this in case they throw the Nightmare Shepherd in the way. Yeah, and that way we can make a token as well as +1/+1. So the first trigger can be the +1/+1. And then the token entering, I'm not sure if it enters attacking, we can still maybe get through this player. That might be a way around the Propaganda. So we'll just select this player. Yeah, and we can get around Propaganda in that way. So as long as this player sticks it out, we can declare a lot of attackers towards him and then get more tokens out and have them enter attacking, which might be of some use to us. +1/+1 on everything. Alright, decides to block with Windborn Muse. I'm very much happy about that. We will still have 2 Propagandas to deal with, assuming that he copies with this. We have to assume that he is going to do that. Although maybe he's just looking to make a copy of the Windborn Muse. So the Nightmare Shepherd triggers. When it dies, he can exile it and make a copy of that. And does in fact decide to do that, but it's only a 1/1 at least, so it's easier to swing in towards. And once we've got Trample with the Shadow Spear, it should be easy to buff something up enough to make it a bit of a problem. Okay, he keeps saying no to this, seemingly. It is a May ability, so I don't know if he's accidentally saying no to it, but he could have had us spend 6 mana on attacking him with 1 creature next turn. Unless Estrid's Invocation has suddenly become bugged. I've played it plenty and it has always worked for me, but not sure why you wouldn't flicker it, to be honest, unless I'm missing something. Angus Mackenzie back into play, 2 cards in hand and 2 mana held up, but decided to just tap out and pass the turn. Oh no, he didn't. He's only got 1 card in hand now, so Resurgent Belief has been suspended. Return all enchantments from graveyard to the battlefield. He doesn't have any enchantments, so I'm guessing he's assuming that there's going to be some kind of board wipe. I mean, the black player isn't that good at enchantment removal yet. Ugh. I don't know why you would... I think that's an odd Massacre Girl, that. I'm not sure that you really need the board wipe here, unless he's worried about, like, Moonshaker Cavalry from us or something, but... anyway, our commander goes back to the command zone. Nightmare Shepherd triggers for the Angus Mackenzie, but it is in the command zone now, so won't get a copy of that. Takes care of his own Braids. I mean, this is the time in which we'd be able to get down the Eternal Wanderer at least. Although they've got a 4/4 Menace, so we wouldn't be able to block it, but Once we start getting down our commander and slowly rebuilding, maybe we'll be able to do something about that. Haven't managed to get into any card draw whatsoever here, unfortunately. A Flicker Wisp is pretty useless to us, although we could add loyalty to a commander if we, or to a planeswalker if we lose too much loyalty on this. Yeah, let's go for the Eternal Wanderer, I think. I'll take more damage to the Ancient Tomb because I want the extra 2 mana to equip up the token I'm going to make here. And we've got only a finite amount of mana that we can make use of. 0 loyalty. Yeah, we need to definitely plan out our future turns here. So equip up for 2 on the 2/2 double striker, soon to be a 3/3. And we'll get our commander out again, which will buff it by +2/+2 with the enchantment background. So he was right to foresee a board wipe, but he's only got the Mirror Maid that is going to enter play when that finally resolves on the next turn. And next turn we can go for our commander and the Flicker Wisp. It only brings it in at the next end step, unfortunately, so we can't activate this twice, but we'll be able to make another double striker at least. Again, the Estrid's Invocation not being flickered, so it's just an Angus Mackenzie. We're really dodging a lot of missed opportunities with attacks here. Have to assume that Massacre Girl is going to swing in at the Planeswalker. And instead it swings in at us. I mean, I'm fine to have the Eternal Wanderer have a bunch of loyalty left on it. That does mean that we can get our commander into play and flicker it and have 2 beastie tokens that we can double block a Massacre Girl with. Might be that they can just use spot removal on the Eternal Wanderer. Alright, a Smothering Abomination means that they're going to have to, at the beginning of the upkeep, sacrifice a creature, which might be the Iara they've just played. We go down to 13 with that drain, but the life gain from the Shadow Spear might be of some use to us. Okay, a Benny with Convoke could be good. Let's see here. We definitely want our commander into play, and I think we're going to have to keep tapping into the Ancient Tomb, unfortunately. So into play comes the Toby and the Beast token. Now got a 5/5 double strike lifelink trample. And do we want to flicker our commander? It puts another Beast into play, but I suppose we could tap down Toby before then with Convoke. Or we could use Flicker Wisp to flicker our commander and maximise the number of beasts we get. But I want the card draw, really. We'll swing in with the Samurai, just in case that makes any difference. And we have to do that to the right. And they decide not to block, so they go down to 23. We go up to 21, which is a lot better. Now, if we get down Flicker Wisp, this is at the end of the turn as well. Yeah, at the next end step. It's the same with Eternal Wanderer, so with Convoke, that matters. But we'd have a Flicker Wisp and a Beast in play, not enough to do Convoke, even if we go for a Samurai with this. So yeah, I think it just has to be Benny. We'll tap down the Toby as part of the Convoke cost and pay 3 mana. And then plus on the Eternal Wanderer, and we will flicker the Toby for another Beast token at the end of the turn. Not putting our commander in the command zone. Then Eternal Wanderer triggers at the end step, bringing the commander back with another Beast token. We draw into Jacked Rabbit with the Benny, and their Resurgent Belief is back into play. I don't think we're even seeing... This is... Yeah, at the beginning of your upkeep. I don't know if I'm just missing something with this, but it's not even on the stack here. So either I'm misunderstanding something or it is bugged. So down comes the Mirror Maid, no doubt as a copy of the Propaganda. Yep, making 2 Propagandas now. Definitely good against a token deck. Unfortunately, the tokens that enter with this do not enter attacking, so we can't get under the Propaganda with that like we could with the Warren War Leader. And still nowhere near reanimating that thanks to missing lands. Now they have to sacrifice with the Smothering Abomination. Sacks the Iara and draws a card. So 3 cards to start with. Plays a land and goes down to 2. Into Ironcrag, some more mana for him. Don't often see this one, but in specific decks like Boros Equipment decks, it could be a good one. Don't think I've ever played with it. Braids back into play again, still 1 card available. Braids does not sacrifice at the end of the turn, so missing out on a decent amount of card draw potentially. We draw at the beginning of the turn, and it is another Plains. I mean, working towards the Emeria can't be all that terrible. So we've got 8 mana now at least. We can swing a couple of creatures in here, but Angus Mackenzie has to be activated Yeah, before the combat damage step. Well, we've got Angus Mackenzie to deal with is the problem, so yeah, they can activate that quite easily from now on. That's the problem. And I think there's just going to be weird plays by the black player who's just going to kind of put a thorn in our side. So we just swing in at this player and try and deal as much damage as possible and then go for a jacked rabbit and flicker our commander again, I think. So it's attacking first. A 5/5 at lifelink, double strike, trample, flyer. The tokens don't have flying yet because we don't control another token. Alright, and speaking of weird plays, are you going to remove combat damage here? Yeah, it looks as though he is. That's weird. So I'm guessing he's got nothing in his hand and he wants the Braid player's help, but Braids can be a hindrance to you, so... yeah, weird plays by Magic Online players. Maybe it'll make sense in the fullness of time. Well, we're starting to get bits of card draw at least. Let's dump 5 mana into X on this, so this can draw a card and Benny will draw us one as well. And we'll hold up 2 mana, just in case it does need to be 5, doesn't it? Yeah, if X is 5 or more, draw when it enters. So we'll hold up 2 mana, just in case it's of any relevance. And into another Plains, so we're only going to be a couple of Plains away from starting to get into Elesh Norn, which will switch this off, so... yeah, we've got a kind of loose plan here. Let's make another token with Toby. And then do we want to re-equip the Shadow Spear to anything? I don't think so. We want to keep the double strike irrelevant. So we'll hold up 2 mana. Might draw into something like a Swords or something with the Benny. No, of course we haven't made the token yet, have we? So we don't get a card draw with Benny, annoyingly. I suppose I could have just gone for the 0 on the Eternal Wanderer. At least this thing has flying now, so... it's a decent blocker for the Smothering Abomination. But yeah, probably would have taken the card draw there, to be honest, and made a double striker if I thought of that. Probably do that from now on if the Eternal Wanderer sticks around. If the bad player gets down another creature, then we could go for the minus. Alright, Angus Mackenzie just passing through the turn again. Smothering Abomination needs to see a creature die, and sacrifices itself for a card draw. Dreadhorde Invasion means they'll start amassing zombies. They'll lose life from that as well, but gain it right back potentially with Falconwrath Noble, another flyer. And then Feed the Swarm is going to go straight after our Jacked Rabbit, which is only going to lose him 2 life. Could have made tokens with that next turn for the Benny, but like I said, we'll go for the Samurai token on our turn. Falconwrath Noble will do the Aristocrat thing when it dies, and that's pointed at us. Seems as though it's a 2-on-1. Still deciding not swinging with Massacre Girl. They wouldn't have got through the Beast token, but could have taken out our Benny if we'd decided to block like that. They sacrifice the Iron Crag. We will not sacrifice, we'll just take some life again. Who knows if we'll be able to gain life with Angus Mackenzie in play. But we're down to 16. And the Braids player is 2 cards in hand. Okay, there's an Ephemerate, so that is return it into play straight away, which could come in handy. So let's go for a token first of all with the Eternal Wanderer, and we're probably just swinging in at the black player and waiting for Angus Mackenzie to interfere again. Not sure what the aim is over here, but it's just drag the game out as long as you can until you can eventually do something seemingly. So swing all these flying tokens into the right. We can go for flickering the Angus Mackenzie itself with this, but they'd just activate it in response, so yeah, there we go, preventing combat damage again. And I'll use the Ephemerate as a means of avoiding spot removal, as Braid seems to carry a decent amount of spot removal. I'll hold on to the Flicker Wisp just so that we've got something to do after a board wipe. Benny draws us a card, unlike last turn. Alright, in Knight of the White Orchid, we've got 8 lands. If the black player plays another land next turn, then we can actually make use of that to grab a land, assuming that we don't draw into one. Mystic Remora. So we're going to draw our opponent's cards with the Ephemerate, although I suppose we could pay the tax because we're not doing anything else. The first zombie is made from the Dreadhorde Invasion. Shambling Ghast enters play, so it's -1/-1, could go onto the Toby. They don't have a sack outlet yet though, or it's a treasure. Can use Braids to point the -1/-1 at Toby if he wanted to. And a Drivnod as well. If a creature dying causes the triggered ability of a creature you control to trigger, then it does it again. And throwing everything into play, a Jadar. Not bothering to play around a board wipe at all. Didn't manage to get into a 9th land, by the way, so we are looking for a Plains off the top if we want any chance of starting to trigger the Ymiria. They did exile some cards from the bin, so an indestructible counter onto the Drivnod. Alright, and I'll wait for Braids to go on the stack before we decide if we're using Ephemera or not. I'm kind of thinking that we just hold on to it, really. Alright, sacks a zombie army to the Braids instead. We'll put 2 Falcon Wrath triggers on the stack. Let's just get rid of a beast token here, seeing as how they're not much use to us. We're losing too much life to Braids. So now there are 4 Falcon Wrath Noble triggers on the stack, because the triggers do count as death triggers, so the Drivnod doubles them up. And I imagine all of them are going to be pointed at us. 3 of them at us and 1 at Angus. Oh, Benny triggers at each end step, I've just remembered, so yeah, we could have gone for flickering this during the main phase, and then they wouldn't have been able to target this with the Shambling Ghast anyway. I was just trying to make them waste that zombie, but yeah, we could have drawn some more cards here. Alright, well, we top deck into our planes anyway, so we didn't need the Knight of the White Orchid. So we'll see if our opponents are playing around our Ymiria the Sky Ruin. We can exile the Falcon Wrath Noble out of the way next turn, so that we can go for the Elesh Norn, wipe out a bunch of stuff, and then it won't trigger this a bunch. Why don't we go for a card draw with the Mind Stone finally? Alright, a Strixhaven Stadium. This has to deal combat damage. Yeah, but we could play that just to replace the Mind Stone, I suppose. It's just drawing cards with Mystic Remora, unfortunately. So let's go for another Samurai with the Eternal Wanderer. And I think all we can really do here is hold up our blockers and Ephemerate, and at least we can play a 5-mana Ephemerate if we want to, so that we're not having our opponent draw with Mystic Remora. No point even swinging in, really. Also, we don't know what we're going to draw with Benny. There might be some relevance there. Can maybe exile Angus Mackenzie before our turn. Nope, that is an Ymiria's Call. Pays the upkeep on Mystic Remora. Idyllic Tutor goes after an enchantment, so maybe another like Sphere of Safety or something like that. Hopefully it's a means of actually beginning to end the game for this player, because he's not really doing anything. Decides to tutor out a Sterling Grove and play the Sterling Grove, so that will give his stuff Shroud. And again just passes the turn with his Bant mana held up. No prizes for guessing what he's going to use that for. Amass makes another token for our opponent, goes down to 20. 2 cards in hand. Then it's through to combat. I'll be intrigued to see if he swings in here. We do have flying tokens, some of which have double strike. Might just want some creatures to die off for the Falcon Wrath Noble. Alright, 4-4, 1-1, an 8-3 we can chump, and a 2-2. So the Decayed Zombie dies no matter what. We could block with Toby and flicker out of the way so that nothing dies there. So let's block the 8-3, indestructible. The Decayed Zombie is dying anyway, so we might as well block there. The 5-5 double striker. I suppose we could throw that in the way of the 8-3 so that this isn't going to die to the first strike. So we just gain 10 life from that. So let's do that. Pull out the Toby. Then the 2 6/6s can jump in the way of the Massacre Girl. Might be that they want to reanimate her or something. So maybe we should take the damage. And then Toby can go in the way of the 1-1 and we'll flicker it out of the way so it doesn't die. So Ephemerate onto Toby. We'll exile it out of the way. Mystic Remora we will put the 4 mana into. And this means that we are making a token this turn, so the Benny will trigger at the end of the turn. Obviously maximise the number of tokens you would make during every single turn when you've got Benny as your commander, but haven't really done that so much in this deck. And we don't lose the buff from the Toby either. We do need our commander in play to get the buff from this, and Ephemerate brings it into play straight away as opposed to at the end of the turn. So a couple of triggers on the stack from the first death. I think that would have been, yeah, that was the Decayed token, both of which were pointed at us. So we're at 16, and then we've got the double strike damage going on to the indestructible black creature. So end up at 21, and 4 Falcon Wrath Noble triggers on the stack now, with the Massacre Girl in the graveyard, which we hope isn't about to be reanimated, but we'll assume that we're taking 4 to the Noble. So the life gain from the Shadow Spear is relevant after all, and all 4 is pointed at us. No, we're being allowed through to the end step, so don't know what the card is that's in our opponent's hand, but we'll be able to draw another one potentially with the Braids here, making a Decayed token before Braids resolves. Alright, and it's Swiftfoot Boots that we draw into from the Benny. And we can sacrifice a token if we want to the Braids. I think, again, we're trying to keep our life total up, so we'll sack the Beast. Because combat is still irrelevant. That does mean 4 Falcon Wrath triggers on the stack again. They got rid of their decayed token from the Jadar. Yeah, I'm just thinking, reanimating Elesh Norn, we have to do it during the upkeep, don't we? So we don't get a chance to exile this out of the way, like I said previously. So, how many creatures go down to Elesh Norn? It's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, meaning that there's 10 triggers. So we'll go down quite a ways here, and we're going to have our combat removed, we have to assume, from the Angus Mackenzie. But I think it's going to be a worthwhile trade-off, because we just are not going to do anything until we switch off Angus Mackenzie, basically. So I don't think it matters what we put on the stack first. Let's just go for the Ephemerate, and then Emeria, pointed at the Elesh Norn. So we're at 13 life. 1, 2, 3... 4 and 5 creatures are going to go down, meaning 10 triggers at us from the Falcon Wrath Noble. We'll be at 3. Let's just try it. And so Angus Mackenzie activates in response, as we were expecting. Emeria came in handy after all, even if it did take 12 turns. So everything getting wiped out. There are 2 triggers from this as well, which could take out a 1-1. But we don't have any 1 toughness creatures in play anymore, thanks to our Elesh Norn. The black player could still do something about our Praetor though. Alright, does decide to put -1/-1 onto the Toby, so 2 -1/-1s. We'll assume that Elesh Norn is going to go down here. Noteworthy that Ephemerate is still on the stack, but obviously can't do anything about anything else our opponent puts on top of that. But Ephemerate allowing to be cast, so we'll just put it on the Toby and that will remove the debuff immediately. Mystic Remora do we want to pay for, because got Swiftfoot Boots to get down yet, because I think I want to go Shadow Spear and Swiftfoot Boots onto a big creature so that we can threaten lifelink. I think we'll have to forego it here. So obviously make another Beast token when it enters, and then go through to the draw step finally. Another Plains for us, so I'll play that as opposed to the Emeria's Call. Got no combat damage to worry about during this turn. We've already made a token for the Benny. So let's go for a 6 mana Swiftfoot Boots, I think. And now the black player's doing something. Alright, Doomblade onto the Elesh Norn, so we knew he had something. Could have done that in response to the Ephemerate though, we're not going to lose our Toby now. But we've got Emeria the Sky Ruin, bringing our Elesh Norn back into play again next turn. I mean, it's already done what it was going to do. Paying the tax on the Mystic Remora at least. So the Boots does make it into play. We'll throw it on... Yeah, I think we're going to make another Samurai token here, and we'll just throw it on the Summoning Sick one. Does mean that we're not holding up any white mana during our opponent's turn if we do draw into a Swords or something, but I mean, we can't exactly take more hits to the Ancient Tomb. So we have a 5/5 double strike flying hexproof haste lifelink trample creature here now, and it's the lifelink that our opponents are going to be worried about, I dare say. So no combat damage, no point in swinging. We draw to the Benny Brax. At least if they get down their commander again here, then we can outpace them with the Elesh Norn next turn, assuming it doesn't get exiled. Drew into a Conjurer's Closet, which doesn't necessarily help us here. Paying for Mystic Remora again, still not happy with the cards that are in his hand. Not sure what his commander costs now though, he might have to tap out into that. Sacrificing the Sterling Grove will allow him to search for an enchantment. Does put it on top of his library though, so won't be able to draw it necessarily. Oh, actually he's doing that during the upkeep, so we'll draw into it. Decided to go for Sphere of Safety, as we called up previously, so yeah, it's turn 13 and all he's really doing is just dragging the game out. I mean, win or lose, I'm not particularly interested, it's just I'd rather you win within the next 20 turns or so. So it would be 9 mana to swing in at this player now. The Braids player has jumped back up to 39 life thanks to that Falcon Wrath Noble. See if he swings in again. Wouldn't mind it, but he's probably learnt his lesson from the lifelink shenanigans we did last time. So deciding to go straight through to Braids, we will definitely sacrifice here because we don't want to go down to 1. So I'll just make that another Beast token. And it looks as though we're actually going to be able to start getting some combat damage through next turn, so Emeria the Sky Ruin back onto the Norn, and this switches off Angus Mackenzie if they decide to play it again. Draw into a Path to Exile, alright, probably worth holding up, maybe even on the Drivnod, if we want to maximise the amount of damage that we're getting through there. So let's go Drivnod, Path to Exile, and we'll pay the tax on the Mystic Remora. And just with the tokens alone, we should have 42 damage on this guy, so yeah, hopefully doesn't have any more removal. Might be able to remove our commander and get some debuffs, but so be it, if he is able to do that. So if my maths is right, I think that's... Oh, these are double strike as well, aren't they? So I'm actually overextending here potentially, but yeah, whatever. Please don't scoop in response, because I would like the life gain, please. Alright, well, we at least got first strike damage. And second strike as well takes us up to 17. This play down to minus 15 is great. So Shadow Spear doing some work for us, as it tends to. We'll make another token with the Eternal Wanderer, because I want to keep drawing with Benny. Emeria's Call. We could get some Angels into play after a board wipe, I suppose, but I'd rather just have the mana for the... for all the Pillow Fort stuff that's going on. So let's now put Swiftfoot Boots onto the Norn and pass the turn at that, I think. Draw a card with Benny. That is a Sword of Hearth and Home for more flicker stuff. That is... yeah, you put them both onto the battlefield straight away with these as well. Mystic Remora, are we finally going to be able to not play around this? Yep, they decide to give up on it, freeing up us casting all of this stuff. In all this time, the Angus Mackenzie player might have been able to draw into a board wipe though. A Dance of the Manse, where X is 2. So out comes Mystic Remora again. They've got the Sterling Grove as well. So it just makes Sphere of Safety even better. Don't know if we're going to be able to afford that. And a Solitary Confinement, excellent. So he's got 2 cards in hand. He's going to be able to discard consistently. So we just need an Austere Command or something really, don't we? I've got Farewell in the deck, which I think is pretty much all that can deal with this board state. And we have to dodge counter magic as well, so yeah. I think we can still swing in though, can't we? Yeah, it's just all damage that will be dealt to you. So we can get the attack triggers at least, and therefore potentially card draw. Emeria can bring back the Warren Leader, it might as well be. And we draw into a Plains, just play the Plains. Sword of Hearth and Home can start gaining us more and more mana, because we're going to need it against the Pillow Fort apparently. We pay for Mystic Remora. Make a token before I forget with the Eternal Wanderer. Sword can go on the Norn, because it's got Vigilance. We might as well just swing in with that. And actually we have to deal combat damage with this, don't we, in order for it to trigger. Oh well, whatever, just swing in anyway. Obviously can't swing in yet with the Norn. I'm just thinking if we can actually land some damage at some point, we'll be able to start flickering with this, but already made a token with the Eternal Wanderer, so we will draw with Benny, trying to get towards that Farewell. Got double protection on the Norn from swords and the like as well. Just a Sol Ring. So, who's bored to death first, basically? Sacrificing the Sterling Grove to get a tutor. Hopefully our opponent gets closer to a win with this tutor. He couldn't get a better tutor than Ghostly Prison apparently. I mean, at this point I would just hold on to the Ghostly Prison personally. 2 cards in hand, so he has to discard something other than the Ghostly Prison, you would assume. No, instead he gives up on that entirely, so we've got half a chance there. Mystic Remora he pays into. Plays Ghostly Prison, 2 cards in hand. So now it's 6 mana with the Sphere of Safety, plus 6 mana from the Propaganda and Ghostly Prisons. So 12 mana to attack him with 1 creature. Odd decision to give up on that Solitary Confinement. Only 1 creature that the Emeria the Sky Ruin can bring out. And it's another Plains for us, so... let's see. We've got 2 mana left, so yeah, thanks to that draw actually of a land, we can go for a buff onto this. Seeing as how it has double strike and it's already got a buff on it. See if they want to swords it or anything in response. No, they don't, so now 8, 9, 10, I think it's 12 to attack this player. We'll hope that I didn't just make a mistake. But we've got a 9/9 double strike lifelinker, and yes, it is 12. And the Warren War Leader will give +1/+1 as well, because that was reanimated with the Emeria, so dealing 20 damage to our opponent, assuming that he doesn't have a fog effect in his hand. No, he does go down to 3. We've got a flicker effect, which Yeah, we'll get 2 of them, which means we get 2 lands, but I don't think the 2 flickers matter particularly. Go after our commander with the first one. Oh, it comes in straight away, the creature, doesn't it? So we can just flicker our commander twice here. So Toby enters and gives us another beast token. The lands do come into play untapped with the sword, so flicker our commander again, seeing as how it comes into play again straight away, like I just said. Our opponent is down to 3 at this point. We are back up to 33. So I'm just praying that the game's actually over next turn. Made it to turn 15. Still leaving the Swiftfoot boots on the Elesh Norn for obvious reasons, because I don't want him to sneak his commander down. Draw with Benny again, which has been an incredible boon for us. We've drawn twice as many cards as we would have done. We've still got something for us at the end of our turn. Okay, Shark Typhoon. They could have... I mean, we've got Trample, I suppose, but... yeah, a 1/1 flyer into play. They're just doing that for the sake of card draw. We draw into a Stroke of Midnight. They don't have Shroud on all their stuff anymore, so that might actually be more relevant than we realise. Could go after the Sphere of Safety with it, paying for the Mystic Remora again. Alright, and decides to scoop it up there, so yeah, thankfully, game is actually over. Weren't drawing into too much of anything interesting. There's a brand new one that I haven't managed to play yet. But yeah, it was probably the Stroke of Midnight onto the Sphere of Safety. Then we don't have to spend as much mana swinging into our opponent. I think it only would have been 6 mana there from the various Pillow Fort decks. But yeah, hell of a grind, but managed to get there in the end. Really like Toby. I just like token decks in general, and this is a fun one. So if you want to see more from it, as ever, you must let me know in the comment section. You've already let me know that you want to see some more commanders that we've seen from this new set, so I will be adding those to the list to replay. Massive thank you to the patrons for their financial support. You can do so yourself via the link in the description below. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.